Hello everyone, welcome back to our course. Next, we are going to introduce Neo4J, which is a famous graph database. Here, we can find an overview about Neo4J. Neo4J is a high-performance NoSQL graph database. It is an embedded, disk-based, fully transactional Java persistence engine. And again, please remember, a graph database is not a database that stores graphs. Instead, it stores structured data on a network which is mathematically called a graph, rather than in tables. Generally, when we use the database to search for relationships between things, we only need to query short-range relationships. Graph database functionality is needed when longer or wider range of relational queries are needed. With the rapid development of industries such as social, e-commerce, finance, retail, and IoT, a huge and complex network of relationships is formed between real-world objects. Traditional databases are often helpless in dealing with such complex relationships. Therefore, graph database emerges as the times require. Here, we listed several advantages of Neo4j. Firstly, it has full ACID support, which means that it can support transactional operations, and especially it can guarantee data consistency. This is awesome because most NoSQL databases do not have full ACID properties. Secondly, it has high availability. So we know that in real industry, availability is very important because usually our customers cannot wait for too long if there was anything wrong with our system. Thirdly, high scalability of tens of billions of vertices. Later, we will introduce what is a vertex. Simply speaking, an object in real world can be regarded as a vertex in the graph database. Fourthly, retrieving data at high speed with traversal tools. In short, Neo4j has a high speed for data query. Now, it's time to take a look at what is the data structure in Neo4j. As we mentioned before, Neo4j uses graph structure to store data. And in a graph, there are vertices and edges. So this is just a very simple graph in a graph database. Now, in this graph, a vertex can represent an entity, and edges can represent relationships. Between entities. Note that edges can have directions, which means that an edge points from a start vertex to an end vertex. In addition, one or more labels may be added to vertex to indicate the type of the entity, and a key value pair set may be added to indicate some additional attributes of the entity in addition. For example, the index is labeled as a person, and the attributes are name, age, and maybe gender. And so on. Edges can also come with additional attributes. So if you are familiar with object-oriented programming, then in fact, each vertex or each edge is just an object, and the label is like a class while object can be described by attributes. But in fact, it is not always the same case when vertices and edges may have attributes. In real industry, there are three types of graph databases models. They are property graphs, hypergraphs, and triple stores. We say that Neo4J is a typical type of property graphs, but there could be other types as shown here. If you are interested in the other two types, please make more exploration on your own. And as for Neo4j architecture, in general, we can deploy it in standalone mode or in cache clustering mode. Standalone mode means that Neo4j needs to take care of all resource allocation work on its own, and if we deploy Neo4j in standalone mode, there are no good methods if there was an error. So it is only recommended to be used in fast development and test environments. And for cache clustering, now it can be used in production environments. And in this case, there are core servers as well as read replicas for different responsibilities. For core server, it provides read and write functions as well as security units for Neo4j. Transactions need to be confirmed by more than half of the core servers before they are securely sent back to applications. And for read replicas, they do not participate in topology decision-making. Therefore, only the query function is affected if the fault occurs. Read replicas provide Neo4j with extensible units to synchronize the contents of the core servers. And in order to use Neo4j, we can use a query language called Cypher. Cypher has many similarities with SQL, and we can draw a comparison between them. In Cypher, we can use match to do queries, and match functions very much like the select function in SQL. And if we need to do conditional query, we can use where statements for help. As we can see, where function is used to limit the attribute values of some attributes in a vertex or edge to return only the desired data. After querying, the desired vertices or edges can be returned as a result by using the function called return. So they are the most commonly used keywords in Cypher. And finally, we can conclude this chapter by introducing some application scenarios of Neo4j. As we can see, Neo4j is widely used in industry. In addition to querying the relationships between people on social networks, Neo4j can also perform data relationship analysis to achieve the function of retailers' recommended purchase list. In the financial industry, Neo4j can achieve the purpose of anti-money laundering. In fact, enterprises include Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn use it to manage social relationships and implement friend recommendation. eBay uses it to implement real-time product recommendation, giving buyers a better shopping experience. Banks such as JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and UBS are using it for risk control. And telcos such as Verizon, Orange, and AT&T rely on it to manage networks, control access, and support customer 360. So you can find that Neo4j is really a good choice in many cases. Alright, that's all for this chapter. In this chapter, we mentioned what is a Neo4j, some advantages of Neo4j database, the storage model of the Neo4j database, a little bit about the query language Cypher for Neo4j database, and finally, some application scenarios of the Neo4j database. Thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy all the contents we introduced so far. If you find the course interesting, We hope that you can put more efforts for further learning in your leisure time. After all, this course just helps to lead you to the techniques of NoSQL. Again, wish you enjoy it and wish you all the best.